Welcome to Biz Meds with Darris and Saad, where we give you the medications for your business. This podcast is all about the minimum effective doses you need to make a massive improvement in your business. Listen and enjoy.
Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of Biz Meds. We are your hosts. My name is Saad.
And I'm Darris.
For today's episode, we want to talk about purpose. And I know that's a very broad statement, but purpose as a business owner can really make or break your business. And I find that, I believe that if you're not aligned with what your purpose is, and it doesn't align with your business goals, a lot of times you just end up aimlessly doing something for, years on end and not really meeting what your internal compass is leading you to do.
Yeah, like you said, purpose is it's a big topic.
Yeah.
Go a million different ways with it. And there's, we talked about it before. It's a common thing when we have we record our podcasts. It just a million things remind me of a million different things. And yeah, purpose is a big one. And I think the way that shows up most importantly is that, relate it and bring it back to when we see people when they're struggling, it's usually because they don't have a really clear sense of purpose, right? People talk a lot about passion, have passion to do this, and that's great, right? You need some of that. You need some of that internal, that intrinsic motivation. Mm-hmm. There's times where it's a slog. It is difficult. It's hard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And no one tells you when you become an entrepreneur or you go start your business, they don't tell you, or nobody knows how to explain to you how hard it is, like what hard actually means. And purpose is one of the things I have found over my coaching career that most business owners don't spend a lot of time on. And it's probably the one thing they should spend more time on, specifically when it becomes hard, when it's difficult, when it's feeling like I don't want to get up. I don't want to do that.
But why are you doing it?
Why are you doing it?
What is leading you to wanting to do it?
Right.
Yeah.
And it plays out in a few different areas. So if you don't have enough of that, right? If you don't have a big enough vision, if you don't have a big enough purpose to continue on when it's hard, then that shows up in a lot of different ways. So it was interesting. We just had a coaching session the other day, and that was the conversation with one of my clients, was that over their journey now and learning these types of things, they're now coaching their people and they're having much more different conversations with their people that work for them. And one of the conversations came around this idea that, it's, in business, it's very easy to become, it's about me. It's about my business. I'm the owner. Everything's about me, right? When you get to a certain maturity level, or you get to a certain point where you start to understand, like it's much bigger, and you start to ask better questions of your people. Like, oh, what is it you want to achieve? What do you want to do? Oh, well, I want to do this. Well, we want to help support you in doing that. And that kind of catches people off guard, but also helping them to understand, like, just that your purpose, your vision is much bigger than theirs, and there's room for their vision inside your vision. And if you don't have that vision, if you don't have that purpose, well, then you're probably going to have higher turnover rates, because people they can't picture themselves achieving what they want to achieve with you and your organization.
And the goals don't align.
The goals don't align, or like it's just the absence of all that, right? If you don't have that, if you're not driving towards anything, if people don't feel that there's a much bigger thing that they're part of, they're going to go somewhere else.
The word you're looking for is purpose. Sorry, that was a low hanging fruit. I had to. I had to. The thing I really love about, and I'm sure our viewers have seen this too, is every topic connects to what we've previously talked about as well.
Yeah, it's all interconnected.
Exactly, right? And then that's why purpose is such an excellent, we say that it's a very broad thing, but we've touched on little things that lead to this topic as well, right? I was just having a conversation with a guy a little while ago, an acquaintance, if you will. I will. He was he's a regional manager for a company. I can't remember. It's skipping my mind right now, and I don't want to give it away anyway.
That's okay. Just a regional manager.
He's a regional manager.
Like Michael from
Dunder
The Office.
So he's a regional manager, and he's starting to get into the bit of the coaching space. And before he started on his own journey of starting to coach people, help people, and help them identify their purpose, one of the questions he was asked that really, really set him on this journey was, what difference are you making? And he couldn't answer that question. He told me the story word for word, and like it really stuck to me because he was saying things that he thought was giving his life purpose, but it wasn't doing anything aside from just, fluffing up a reason as to why he's important. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I take my kids to school. Like, okay, but what difference are you making? I cook dinner for my family. I provide for them. I buy groceries. Yeah. What difference are you making?
Great question.
I'm teaching people, the business in and outs as a regional manager. What difference are you making? And he just couldn't answer that question. It was
like a gym moment. As a regional manager.
Yeah, exactly. I was just kind of rejigged that memory of mine because, it took him a little while to figure out what his purpose was and what he was trying to accomplish and why he wanted to coach people.
I think that further just proves the earlier assertion that most leaders, most business people, business owners, entrepreneurs don't spend enough time figuring out what their purpose is. And so I've said it before. I will continue to say it again and again and again because you probably haven't gone back to listen to the previous podcast episodes. So I'll have to re-say it. Is that, people say, oh, I'm really passionate. I mean, that makes my spidey sense tingle. That gets the hairs on the back of my neck to stand up because those people are typically, they're riddled with ego. And like, I get it where they're trying to come from a good place and, I'm really passionate about something, but passion is a really selfish thing.
Let me quote you. Passion without purpose is just riddled with ego. Cue in the clip here. If we
just replay it. Just insert that clip back in here again. Yeah, absolutely. Passion without purpose passion without purpose is just riddled with ego. And purpose puts the ego back into check because it brings it beyond you. It takes it outside yourself. So passionate people typically, right? I'm waiting for the heckling crowd to jump in and make comments. I really don't care.
Hold on.
Yeah. That is usually a really clear indicator of someone who is more fueled by ego when they're saying they're super passionate, right? Because then it's like, oh, well, I'm just super passionate. And they use it as artistic license to be shitty and do shitty things and have bad behaviors, terrible behaviors and do all these things. Well, I'm just passionate. Yeah. That's bullshit. You can be passionate. That's fine. Passion with purpose, right? And those are the types of people that we're looking to talk to is that, again, that passion feeds up into your purpose, and that purpose is a much bigger thing that you are trying to achieve. It's bigger than yourself. Because if it's all about you, well, guess what? You're not going to do it. If there's anything I've learned in my career, and you can look at anyone who else has been successful, what they'll tell you is they don't do it alone. And so if you want to let your ego run amok and it's all about you, that's fine. You will hit a plateau. You will stay there. If you're really looking to make a larger impact, if you're looking to find out what's the missing ingredient as to what's going to help you pull you towards achieving your goals when you feel like you don't want to get out of bed, or you don't want to make that phone call, or you want to do that thing that you're avoiding, well, then the one thing you can do is spend more time figuring out what your purpose is. Because when you have that, you're going to have fuel in the tank for, like I just said, when you don't feel like doing it. Because some days are easier to have the discipline and the grit to just put one foot in front of the other. And sometimes when that is getting really low and really hard, it's nice to know what exactly is pulling you towards that. And if anyone would like a really good way to like put that into context, just listen to some stories of whether or not you agree with it, doesn't matter. But if you want to listen to people who have continually broken through like the limits of what it is that, like what fuels them to continue to go on, what one would think that was actually possible to do. Listen to stories of like special forces operators, Navy SEALs, Green Berets, Delta, all those guys who have probably undergone the most challenging physically, mentally, emotionally scenarios that we would ever think to even imagine. And here we are. And why is that? Right? It's because when you talk to them, you listen to them, they have purpose. They have purpose that will fuel them beyond when they feel like giving up. And guess what? They will tell you when they were going through all of their selection process, all the hardest stuff in the world, they thought about giving up all the time, right?
Oh, yeah.
Every day. But they had passion. They had purpose. Passion. Yes, they had passion for what they're doing, but that fed into a larger purpose that allowed them to do more than they thought they could do themselves.
Well, the reality is like 90% of people, if they were put through those drills, they would not, like an average person.
Like talk about 99.999999% of people. Like just to make it to a selection process in special forces, you're at the 1%. Right? Like just to enter the front door of a selection process in special forces, you're at 1% of the population. Then to make it through the attrition rate of going through all that, you are less than 1%.
Yeah, you're the 1% of the 1%.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so when you really understand what these guys go through or what they have gone through, and I'm not saying that.
Yeah, it's not to take away from.
It's not taking away from anyone else's what they're going through. It's just it's the principle behind it, right? It's that purpose can give you an immense amount of clarity and the ability to move forward even when you don't feel like it. Yeah. And I say that because we've gone through the same thing, right? Where it's been for many years, right? The coaching was really, I had put away this idea of having a large organization and doing really big things because, to be fair, I've ran very large organizations. I've had 12 managers reporting into me. I've dealt with, tens of millions of dollars in revenue, hundreds of employees, all these things. And that's not saying anything to impress anyone, really. It's really just to impress upon people that, like, when you get to that level and all you're feeling like is you're just tapped out all the time, the last thing you want to think about is like, oh man, I want to do this again and I want to have more people work for me. It's so much headache.
Yeah.
And you want to shy away from it. And when it comes back down to it, and when I started back on the journey or continue the journey on, kind of past those roadblocks, it was, oh wow, our purpose is so much greater that it becomes a privilege. It becomes a privilege to bring people in to work with us, and completely changed my philosophy or view on things because it just kind of set things back into context for me. Oh, I don't know if that makes sense, or I feel like sometimes I'm rambling.
No, I get it. I get what you're saying. And, one of my questions was going to be like, how do you help somebody find their purpose?
Yeah.
Because for me, it was just a series of things that I'd done in my life, and then taking the time to understand what was common in all of them, and what kept me being successful at all of them.
Yep.
And then kind of doing, obviously, basic mathematics, dividing, figuring out what I should continue doing, and if that's what I'm good at and that's what gives me purpose, I can apply that to anything and be successful.
Yeah, I'll probably say things that maybe not resonate with a lot of people, but at this stage of the game, I don't care anymore, just because the purpose is so much greater. I will say for a very long time, I just put one foot in front of the other. And I had ideas. I really, for a long time, just had this idea that I knew that I'm here to do bigger things. I didn't always know what it was. I didn't have a really good, clear picture. So I will say, for those that are looking for a really good tool, so in line with minimum effective dose, what I highly recommend is it's called the Future Authoring Program by Jordan Peterson and a group of psychologists. And I honestly, just going through that program will give you immense clarity on, because part of it is you look at, your past self and identifying things, but also looking at future. And it really enables you, supports all those things to really get really clear on what that future looks like. And I think that was the first turning point where I got a lot more clarity in what it was, what I felt my purpose was. And also, who doesn't have a time where you don't get clarity or you don't get the good side until you've gone through the bad stuff? And so it's like, you wander around in the wilderness and then you find, oh, there's the water. Well, for a long time, I felt I didn't know what the purpose was, or I was lost. Yeah. And so I didn't know.
Or if you're ever going to find water.
Yeah. And that is talk about cognitive load and all that, like a very demotivating thing. It's sometimes very hard to try to put one foot in front of the other and be like, I don't know.
Yeah. Where is this leading me?
Where is it leading me? All I know is just going to keep going. And
how long for? Yeah.
But continually pushing through that. And no matter how many times you get knocked down, continue to pick yourself up and keep pushing forward. Like there will come a breaking where you will start to get that. And so that program was one of the key ones that I used to start getting more clarity. The other thing is, honestly, sometimes there's just a pulling in your heart. There's a pulling in your heart where you start to understand that, maybe it's God telling you something more. Yeah. Where you start to take notice of things a lot more that maybe you've put off, and that has really, in the past year or so, really pulled at my heart a lot more. And where I am and making sure that my purpose is actually bigger than me. It's not about me. And that has helped immensely. I don't think I'm doing that justice, but I think there's people out there who, like you're starting to get, like, you're probably getting signs. You're probably feeling something in your heart that is bigger than you, but there's probably a lot of fear there. Because I think we all want to avoid a sense of loss, right? Yeah. And this world is really all about accumulating things.
Yep.
And very materialistic. And so
the less you have, the lower you are. And just that.
Yeah, unless you're driving that particular car or living in that neighborhood. And a lot of those things I've been able, it's easier to start letting those things go, because for me, those also those aren't the measure of a man. And so for me, yes, business is a very important thing in what it enables us to do for people, right? So one really soft part of my heart has always been children. I cannot stand when children are suffering, sick,
Don't have guidance.
yeah, all those things. So for me, like one of my bigger goals is to be able to support much greater in that way, because I absolutely detest anyone that would actually harm a child or do something intentionally to harm a child, or just through sickness or random events feels that or suffers that, because to me, like, they're just so innocent.
They're absolutely.
And I hate that. And so, like, the purpose behind doing this, the purpose behind helping other people is because guess what? Like, I talk with my clients probably a lot more about it. I mean, we talk about it a lot more is like, why do we do this? Well, this is the ripple effect, right? If we can help people improve their business, help them become better leaders, become better people, right? That the ripple effect happens because suddenly you learn how to communicate better. Well, you're going to communicate better with your partner. So you're either your wife or your husband or whoever it is. And then guess what? If you have children, they see that. And now because you're doing that with your partner, you're also doing that with them, and you're teaching them how to communicate and how to become a better person, and giving them the skills and tools early on. And suddenly they're behaving that way with their friends. But even you're doing that with your partner, the people that you lead in your companies, right? You start to coach them. They start to model after you, because I will say, like, when I was managing a lot of people, there was times it's just for lack of not knowing any better. Right. And just absorbing what I saw, how I saw people managing people and what I thought was okay to do.
Yeah.
There was times I would go and I would slam a door because I was pissed off and angry and upset. And thankfully, one of my employees came up to me and said, like, you need to stop doing that, because people, like, it doesn't help people. And I had to really make a deep internal look at myself and be like, oh, wow, I need to stop doing that because of I didn't ever like it when people did that in my life. And here I was creating that same environment for them, an unsafe environment where you have to show up, like, as a leader. You have to show up at a level far beyond anyone else. You have to.
Yeah.
Right? You cannot sink to other people's level and point your finger at them and say, well, they do that, so it's okay. You have to be better. You have to do better all the time.
Yeah. Well, and the tough part about that also is that your personal life is also in limelight, pretty much.
Yeah.
Anything that happens.
They bleed.
Yeah.
It just bleeds over.
As a leader, even more so, because now people are watching everything you do.
Yep.
They're looking at you for guidance. They're looking at you for, or helping lead them. And if you let anything bleed in that interferes, for example, right now, this is an example I don't really want to use because I'm not a big fan of him, but Justin Trudeau going through his divorce at the moment, and he's trying to run a country. I'm not sure how well he's doing, but all eyes are on him, and people are expecting him.
It's a tough situation,
right?
It's an absolutely tough situation.
Yeah,
I'm not going to comment on anything other than, like, I don't care who you are.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
tough situation.
It's a tough,
right?
Absolutely tough situation to be in,
and you have to admire that, because being in that type of, again, presence, all eyes are on you. So everything you do will very heavily depend on what is going to happen next and how that's going to impact people on a massive scale. So
yeah, and I know we went off a little off topic there, and really I think all of that does relate back to purpose and why are you here. And as a business owner, I think you owe it to yourself, you owe it to the people you lead, you owe it to your family, you owe it to everyone to get really, really clear on what that purpose is. So if it's a tool like the self-authoring program from Jordan Peterson, I'll put a link in the show notes. We make nothing from that. There's no referral deal, nothing other than here's a tool. I think if you can go through it, you can have some determination, some grit to get through it and execute on that. You will find it immensely, immensely valuable to help you move and get that clarity and purpose that you need, so that when it feels like shit, and it will feel like shit, that you will still be able to get up and you will have something pulling you towards because it's bigger than you versus you trying to muscle your way through everything and think you're going to try to get there.
Yeah. And if you were able to, so this is kind of just riffing off of what you said before, if you're able to get even just 1% better, 1% a day, that's not a lot to ask, but in a year, you're 365% better. You're 3.5 times better than what you were the year before.
Yeah. There's going to be ebb and flow.
Yeah.
There's going to be ups and downs, right? Baseline performance, though, if you keep up to that, will continue. And that goes again to that whole idea, just every time you get knocked down, just keep getting up.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many times, just keep going.
Sometimes it might take a little longer, but as long as you keep getting back up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where purpose comes into it. Yeah. So I don't have anything more I think I want to add to that.
No, I think that was I felt that it was a very passionate conversation. It was filled with purpose. Sorry, I had to lighten it up a little bit near the end, but I think I found a lot of value in just discussing that openly a bit, and hopefully you guys did as well. So I think this is
So everyone, thank you for tuning in. Whatever platform you're on, if you're watching, you're listening, thank you. Mom, thank you. Saad's mom, thank you again. Thank you. Everyone who's been on this journey, continues to be on this journey, all of the new listeners and subscribers that we have, thank you so much. You guys have been so phenomenal. Watching our channel kind of grow. It's really great. So to all of you, thank you. We look forward to seeing you in listening in the next episode.
Yeah.
And remember, you're just one day away from the life you've always dreamed about.
Before we completely shut it off here, we give a lot of shout outs to everybody. Want to give us ourselves a shout out. We're hitting a 1,000 subscriber milestone, and thank you all for that support. Please continue supporting us because that's the only way we're able to grow and continue doing this and helping you guys.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you.